Howdy! Oh, what do you know? It is Rabbit, and we are closing in on being done with Feats videos forever. I've pretty much said everything I can about these, and they have been the content on this channel for the last month or so. I plan to go into more stuff with different games that I've been playing and enjoying, so keep tuned for that, but notwithstanding, we have some final feats to go through. And these are my actual favorite feats in the game. Well, presuming they're not bugged as all get out, but on paper, I prefer each feat on this list to the actual best feats in the game. We have a lot to go through though, so it's time to move on to number 1, Sentinel. Sentinel is just one of those feats that feels awesome to use. It supports the party, it gives you more potential attack actions, it snares people when you get one of your many more opportunity attacks, and it freakishly synergizes with Polar Master to effectively lock down an opponent. Honestly, there are a lot of great things about this feat, and it's the reason I consider this the absolute best synergistic feat in BG3. I love this feat. Now, I know I haven't done this very often in all 4 of these videos, but I would leave this one exactly as it is. It's perfect. The only component I was mulling over removing was the caveat that you can't use your reaction on opportunity attacks when an ally of yours is hit within range, if that ally also has this feat. However, I think it would be too easy to exploit having this on a 4 melee team, so I won't go that far. This one tides the fix-it wins. Number 2, Spell Sniper. Spell Sniper has a strong place among Eldritch Blast users and very few others, but it can augment spellcasting playstyles as long as you're a mainline damage dealer. Particularly if you deal high-tier single-target damage, since as far as I'm aware, you don't currently get the benefits applied to area effect or melee range attacks. I would alter this feat pretty radically though, mostly because streamlining or expanding things wouldn't actually break the game, and I think this one needs a bit of love to put it in line with our changes to the Elemental Adept feat. You learn 1 additional damage-dealing cantrip from any spell list with a range up to 60 feet. This cantrip uses your highest spellcasting modifier for its attack rolls. The number you need to roll a critical hit with a spell or cantrip is reduced by 1. If you use a 6th level spell slot or cast a 6th level spell that deals damage, this number is reduced by 2 instead. You gain +1 to hit with spells and cantrips. This bonus is doubled if you use a 6th level spell slot or cast a level 6 spell that deals damage. I truly debated bringing in the double range bonus from the tabletop version, but that would make spells effectively capable of attacking from twice as far away as longbows, so it's probably not worth opening that can of worms. We're officially out of ranged feats we can manipulate anyway. Besides, in my humble opinion, the counter to spellcasters is ranged, whereas the counter to ranged is oddly melee in this rock, paper, scissors balance metric of crazy magical nonsense we declare Dungeons and Dragons. Spellcasters are meant to rain devastation down on grouped up enemies, which mostly includes melees. If your rangers are grouped together, you done fucked up in this cowardly, easily scattered rabbit's opinion. Number 3, Savage Attacker. This is just a base damage boost, not a dissimilar feat to my version of Elemental Adept. The math in tabletop effectively amounts to less than 2 extra damage gained by this feat per attack, which actually makes Savage Attacker seem unappealing. However, this feat actually re-rolls all the damage riders used in an attack, whether or not it's actually supposed to. Hush hush, no fix needed. What's more, it's always active, requiring no resources, and can never do less than the original amount. Savage Attacker is a synergistic feat for a reason. It augments what is otherwise a build you've planned and constructed outside of this feat, including gear and other feats. And I think that's fine. Tuning this, even by changing it to add your proficiency bonus to damage, would probably break 40 other things, so I think it's good to leave this as is. I was considering helping it work with sneak attacks, but Update 7 actually has fixed that, so it's the only thing I would have ever considered providing. This is another one that just works as built. Number 4, Resilient. Resilient. It's powerful, it's simple, and it shores up some weaknesses. This feat basically grants you +1 to any ability score and proficiency to that score's saving throws. Honestly, I have nothing against this feat. It's mostly powerful for traditional tanky builds or those meant to be targeted by enemies. I found this works extremely well with Paladin, which fast became my favorite class in BG3, and remains the one I main casually to this day. Still, I do find myself not really taking this feat anymore now that I know how to manipulate the game better. I'm game to chance a bad roll over losing ground by not picking my better feats. And that's what makes me think that Resilient has kind of fallen out of favor. I think there are two things we can bump on this one though, without making it too strong, that would entice somebody to still snag it. You gain +1 to an ability score of your choosing. You gain proficiency in saving throws to any ability score of your choosing. This does not have to be the same one in which you took the bonus initially. If you succeed on a saving throw with which you have proficiency, you gain your proficiency bonus in temporary hit points before the effect of the saving throw has resolved. In this case, even if you were to take damage, you would gain the temp HP before you took the damage, potentially brushing it off. I think this is critical to having this feat actually stand out. I heavily debated adding even more to this, such as making you immune for a turn to spells of a particular school cast on you, if you save against an effect from that school, but I think this is the right cutoff. That would be way too much, and we just want to make things stand out, not be absurd. One thing I did want though is the ability to choose up to 2 ability scores with which to gain benefits. If you can train your stamina, why can't you also train in avoidance techniques using your nimbleness? Maybe the training differs between 2 abilities, such as being able to spot illusions cast on you, and also improving your ability to communicate with others. Why not? Dividing the 2 scores definitely is not overpowered, and it synergizes well with different classes, which is what makes this whole feat list all work. Adding a buffer to temporary hit points just makes this more gravy and keeps the flavor of resilience. Honestly, I'd actually take this on a tank or even a support spellcaster. Resilient didn't need much, but it needed something. Number 5, Polar Master. Polar Master is one of those feats that by itself really isn't all that great when you consider everything else you can do to augment your character. It's pretty much the first one that requires other feats not to be awesome, but to even be decent. You can tell we're getting closer to the bottom of the list here, but I've said a lot of negative stuff about Polar Master that doesn't do it justice when it's used the way it should be, with several other feats. This gives you a weak bonus attack option and potentially lethal active opportunity attacks. This is what breaks Sentinel and makes the duo the dream team of feats, especially when combined with Great Weapon Master. Now, would I change anything about this feat? Honestly, no. I know it's weird to spend so much time bashing the feat only to be happy with it as it stands, but I did, and I am. Polar Master is effective not because it impacts the field by itself, but because it takes advantage of extra actions and opportunities that the feat sets up. This legitimately and literally opens up attacks of the most opportune nature without any semblance of difficulty. And yes, I know that this feat is bugged harder than a cat having to play princess to some cringy bitch who just thinks it's just so cute. But ideally, if this worked as intended, anything I did to this would just make it too much or too little to balance it out. In a utopia where everything worked, this is a fine feat. Number 6, Heavy Armor Master. I've so far worked on the armored feat line, combining them into the guarded feat, and I've reworked and added the medium and light armor master feats respectively. Finally, we come to the last feat on the list, which is actually one I appreciate within BG3, Heavy Armor Master. This feat is fine as is, providing a small but noticeable bump to your defenses and reducing non-magical damage you take by 3 points, but we could bring a bit more to it. Heavy Armor Master is not one of those feats you'll often take on anyone outside of a paladin for the lulz, a cheesy radiating orb cleric, or a fighter, since nobody else can really take advantage of it given the limited feat options of other classes. Even then, other feats are stronger. Let's see how I remedy this one. You gain +1 to either strength or constitution up to a maximum of 20. While wearing heavy armor, if an attack does not critically miss you, a secret roll is performed on 1d20. If that roll is a 1, it is treated as the roll used against you regardless of what any other hit chance rolls may have been. Otherwise, the initial roll is the roll used to calculate hit chances against you. This effect may only activate once per turn and will activate on the first attack performed against you. While you are wearing heavy armor, you reduce the damage you take by an amount equal to your proficiency bonus. Okay, well the reduced damage via proficiency bonus is something I've seen in every reimagining of this feat. I can't recall ever noticing the second bonus anywhere, and I think it's pretty creative. This actually adds an additional 4.75% chance to blunder while fighting a heavily armored combatant, which makes your armor contribute a bit more to your defense and provides a unique effect that no other armor gets to have. Its unpredictability is completely intentional for balance purposes, but it will more often penalize high initiative enemies for attacking you first, though only on one attack. Still, all of this contributes to your survivability in ways that medium and light armor just don't get to take advantage of. Furthermore, streamlining the damage reduction was just kind of a given. It just had to happen. The thing I really love about this revamp is that it actually acts the part of plot armor, making you more resistant to hits by just making everyone else bad at what they do best. In a very weird way, it's narratively satisfying. Certainly it's befitting the paladins, fighters, and clerics, which are most likely to take it, hop into the middle of a battlefield, and by some miracle emerge on the other side winded but unharmed. I hate to love it, but for this one, the love is in the air. Number 7, Athlete. Athlete is a fun, admittedly great feat. It's not better than the best, but it's not bad in any way in my humble opinion. I adore this feat. It basically adds 1 strength or dex, increases jump distance, and reduces how much movement you lose by standing from a prone position. It's simple, but it really makes jumping a combat ability that just works for me. I jump in every game I play, even when it's not viable, because I'm just too restless to stay still. However, it's never strong enough to compete with the top 4 feats of any build, so to look attractive enough to take, we'll need to give it at least a slight bump. You gain +1 to either strength or dexterity up to a maximum of 20. You use significantly less movement by standing from a prone position. Your jump distance is increased by 50%. You have advantage on athletics checks. Alright, come on, you knew this was coming. The feat is called Athlete, and currently it doesn't even contribute to the athletic skill. Why is thing true? The match is made in heaven, and it perfectly correlates without being too much. Besides that, it actually makes strength more appealing without harming dexterity builds in any way. This makes your shove character capable of so much more using the skill that 5e has specifically reserved for shove checks. But it covers everything that you'd see athletics cover. This is meant to be a synergy feat, not a build-defining feat, but that little obvious bump makes this all the more worthwhile to have. Number 8, Charger. I wish I took this feat more often. It's powerful in circumstances that, once you start playing around with it, aren't all that niche. Honestly, I think the only thing wrong here is just how much action economy this thing consumes for both of its effects. Pretty much everyone and their dog agrees that using an action and a bonus action is a bit much for a charging shove, though I love the extra 5 damage for the actual charge attack. It's not a bad talent, not by a long shot, so I don't need to do much to fix it, but it does need some minor attention. Namely, the attack is slightly too powerful and the shove attempt is far too weak. So I came up with this. You gain 2 new weapon actions, Run Through and Bowl Over. These weapon actions do not provoke opportunity attacks. Run Through, using an action and bonus action, you charge up to 30 feet towards a target and make a melee attack roll against them that deals extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus if it hits. You are able to move through the spaces occupied by creatures that are between you and the target. Bowl Over, using an action and bonus action, you charge up to 30 feet towards a target and then attempt to shove them. If the shove attempt is successful, they are knocked prone when they land. You are able to move through the spaces occupied by creatures that are between you and the target. You retain the use of the extra action feature when you use either weapon action. I could have done the simple thing and just made the shove attempt cost an action or a bonus action, but not both, as many others have proposed, though I prefer ideal and interesting over bland and boring. This way the attack feels a lot more like a bull rush, bringing back some of that 3rd edition flavor. Moving through other creature spaces just feels right, even if it isn't realistic, but shoving every creature between you and the target is easily too powerful. This basically acts like a teleport, moving you to near another creature and setting you up without having to worry about pesky opportunity attacks, which in my opinion are a shitty necessity for balance purposes. It's a slight damage nerf, but a decent utility buff that situates this feat even more effectively in the synergy column. Number 9, Shield Master. I have a gripe, not with this feat, which I actually like, but with shields and the tank playstyle in general. Honestly, the protection fighting style particularly could have been a better fix for this, but I think we can work the perks of this feat into the fighting styles even more than any other feat in the game, and cover a couple of bases. Let's get to it because I'm antsy to play around with this a bit. You gain a +2 bonus to dexterity saving throws while wielding a shield. While wielding a shield, if a spell forces you to make a dexterity saving throw, you can use your reaction and interpose your shield between yourself and the attack. On a failed save, you take only half damage. On a successful save, you don't take any damage, even if you normally would. While wielding a shield, if you are trained in the protection fighting style, the range at which you may impose disadvantage when an ally is attacked is doubled. If you are trained in the dueling fighting style instead, you may use an active version of the shield bash feature granted by shields that costs you a bonus action instead of a reaction. This effect is otherwise identical. If you are trained in the defense fighting style instead, you gain an additional +1 for a total +3 bonus to dexterity saving throws. These effects can stack. I could have gone on with this one, adding a bonus to archery that turns the shield into a pavis, but that's outside the scope of this feat, and would just be too complicated for too little benefit. The 3 perks I added here give huge flavor while being simple implementations that don't overpower anything. Honestly, the 3 other main fighting styles are just intrinsically more powerful, more synergistic, better than these ones, and or have significantly better feat lines, so it stands to reason that I should give these fighting styles a bit more of an oomph without getting too crazy. This is how I'd buff Shieldmaster, and I think it's in the right spot with this. Number 10, Defensive Duelist. It was tough putting this here, but it's really the only choice. When it comes down to either this or Elemental Adept, I just feel the latter was a disappointment, while this was technically a way to manipulate and synergize with a particular, albeit often impotent playstyle. That the feat is entirely defensive also kinda grinds my gear a bit, so we'll do what every sensible person on the subject has done, what everyone should always homebrew in their own games, and what God and Better God, that's Buddha in case you weren't sure, intended. This is now called Duelist. First things first, this no longer requires a Dexterity 13 or Finesse weapon because that's just less fun to build around. Here's what the revamped, new, and improved Duelist offers. Once per short or long rest when you are attacked with a melee weapon while dual wielding or taking advantage of the dueling fighting style, you can use a reaction to increase your armor class by an amount equal to your proficiency bonus, potentially causing the attack to miss. Once per turn when you successfully hit with a melee attack while dual wielding or taking advantage of the dueling fighting style, you gain 1 stack of Duelist Riposte. This can stack up to 3 times, and all stacks are cleared after a short or long rest. Each stack reduces the value needed to score a critical hit by 1 for your next attack. If your next attack is a critical miss, your stacks do not diminish. Otherwise, even if your roll is not a critical hit, all stacks are expended on the next attack. This one really made me think quite a bit about what would be cool, and you know what? There really aren't any builds outside of Paladin's Divine Smite, Champion Fighter in general, or Sorlock's Eldritch Blast build that really take advantage of critical shenanigans. If I'm just being honest, this could be a fun way to bring some finesse, ha-ha, to the revamped Duelist feat. So far, the only time I envision gaining more than 1 stack of Duelist Riposte is if you critically whiff a couple shots, which actually works out well in that it makes up for some of that lost action economy otherwise. Normally, though, it's just a +1 crit threshold every 2 attacks, which I'm sure is fair for an offense feat limited to D8 weapons. Considering that many fights only last a few rounds, I can't see this becoming too overpowered, but it really amps up both playstyles in a fun way. Great Weapon Master and Sharpshooter already support their playstyles well, so we needed an equivalent. Kinda bumps the feat out of the synergy list, but really I think Mobile would be here if it weren't for how awesome that feat is, and how much I just wanted it in the top 10 best feats list. And that is how I'd revamp the most synergistic feats in all of BG3. Now that we're finally done with every single feat list in the game, let me know in the comments if I captured the essence of this feat list, if you like the idea of these feats, or if you just think I'm bad at video games or life in general. I'm certainly right, but you could try to dispute that. To prove me wrong, go ahead and click any of the videos you see popping up on the screen right now. Above and beyond that, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.